Hi, today I'm going to be showing you how to add a fun pop-up twirling element to your cards. And I was inspired by a book that's called Mommy, and it's a great pop-up book that my son got at the library, and I was thinking it would be really great to have it as a card. So to start with, you're going to want to gather all your supplies. You are going to need some sort of hobby knife and a ruler. I use an acrylic ruler because then I can see through it. And then you're also going to need string and a straw or something, which I didn't happen to have, but I found that a wooden skewer that we use on the barbecue worked just as well. So to get started with, you're going to want to have a base, and I chose a craft card base. And then you're going to use your ruler, and I actually marked it with a marker because I was cutting into it anyways. And you're going to want to be about, I did about 3/4 of an inch in, and then I marked at 2.5, and then I also marked at 6, and I just used these as guidelines. And then I went ahead and did the other side, and I'm just kind of eyeballing it for you guys, but at 2.5 and 6, and then each one of these is it's almost about an inch, it's a little less than an inch across. So I went about 7/8 on both sides of here. So it's about an inch, and then I'm going to add my bottom ones. Just again, these are just guidelines for my cutting. And some people who can cut a lot straighter than me don't need them. So once I have these, I need a self-healing surface or a place where I can cut, and then I'm going to use them to connect the dots against my ruler and my hobby blade. So I would just cut on here, and I don't have a good surface underneath here, so I'm going to show you. Fast forward. So actually cut, and then once I've cut, instead of the normal fold, I want to pull these guys up and fold down. And you want to make sure that you have a good crease because you're going to be moving this back and forth. And the other element that you'll see I added here is I actually just took some scissors and I cut into the edge on both of these ends of the tabs, and then I folded them in again. So this is where our skewer is going to go, and I just used some scissors to cut off the right size of the skewer, and you can actually kind of use that as a guide. And once it's in place, again, you'll want to make sure that you kind of support it a little bit. And I decided I wanted to make sure that the skewer stayed in. And so you'll see on my final project, I added a couple little mini buttons to the ends, and so that the skewer wouldn't be moving. So this is actually the part that's going to be spinning, and so you want it to kind of spin when you open it and to spin a little bit when you close. And you'll have to kind of play around a little bit with the tension, but you want to take a really small punch, and you're going to punch a hole. If I can get this right. You're going to want to punch a hole behind there, and then again, you'll see I already did my one on the end here. That's where the string is going to go through, and you're going to actually have the string, which I just dropped. You're going to start with putting the string through your first hole, And if you have a hard time with threading needles or sticking a hole, you can actually make a larger hole than I did. And I used a little glue dot just to hold it. And then the next thing you're going to do is you want to make sure that you have plenty of string. And I did this when I was playing around with it, did it a couple times, and I found that it was easiest to spin it around when it was still on here, because then I could get more on it. So I'm going to just kind of go through and add plenty of string. I'm sure the more that I practice, the better I would get at this, but right now I just want to make sure I have enough for the movement. And of course, you want to make sure that your thing is secured on the back, and it wasn't too well. So I'm going to add another glue dot to the back. Eventually, what you're going to do is you're actually going to have paper, because you're going to need to add a back and a front to this space, because otherwise you just have a bunch of holes. So now I'm going to cut my string, and I'm going to feed it through this other hole. Sorry, I had to get it wet. That's totally gross. I'm sorry. Welcome to my room. Okay, so, and then you're going to want to do the same thing and secure it on this side. So again, I had a practice dot on here, but I probably want to add another one so it doesn't slip. And whoa, there we go. And then, as you open this, you'll see that it's going to spin. And then as you close it, it's going to spin the other way. And you'll have to play around a little bit with the tension and kind of practice it a little bit. And I noticed that some of the time, if it wasn't spinning really well, I could, it was because there wasn't enough room on the skewer, so I would add a little bit more cuts to the end. So once I have that, I'm actually going to do majority of the decorating and things. You'll notice that so I noticed that these tabs were kind of folding a little bit, so I just cut some extra support for them, and I'm just going to add them to there so that they have a little bit extra stiffness. So okay, so now that I've added that extra reinforcement, we can actually open it up, and it'll spin, and it'll spin going both ways. So there you go. I hope you try it out and see what better things that you can do or add. And just so you know, when you see the final product, I'm going to glue those 2 little buttons on the end. But, well, other than that, there it is. Thanks.